Hello and welcome once again to our course on design and product development. Today's a little special. I want to get away from the specific topic about design and product development and talk about learning in the age of AI and basically reclaiming thought in an industrialized system. I'm Brad Scheller and I'm the professor of this course. And let me set the tone with some actual facts here. I want to start this conversation with a provocation, not to alarm you, but to wake something up. And that is, you're living through the system crash of modern education. And I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean it in the way a software engineer means it. The operating system that has been running your educational experience, the assumptions, the workflows, the reward structures, that's failing under the weight of new hardware, new software, new systems. And that hardware is artificial intelligence. Now, before you tune out thinking this is just another AI is going to take your job talk, it's not. This is about something far more personal. This is about your mind, your capacity to think, your ability to reason independently in a world where machines can generate polished answers faster than you can form a question. The classroom you're sitting in, whether physical or virtual, was designed for an era where information was scarce, where producing a well-formatted document was a skill, when showing up and completing tasks were enough. That era is over. And the question we need to ask ourselves is what comes next? That's what this presentation is about. It's not about technology. It's not even AI specifically. It's about you and the cognitive architecture you're building right now, whether you realize it or not. So let's begin. So congratulations, maybe. You're the first generation to use tools that think back. That's pretty interesting. I want you to sit down and think about this for a moment. No generation before you, not your parents, not your professors, not even the people who designed the curriculum you're following, have ever learned alongside technology that produces structure, clarity, and explanations on demand. Think about that. Every previous generation had tools that were passive. A calculator computes, but it doesn't explain. A search engine retrieves, but it doesn't synthesize. What you have now with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the dozens of AI tools emerging every week is something fundamentally different. These tools don't just assist, they generate, they structure, they reason. They produce output that looks indistinguishable from expert level work. And here's what makes your situation so unprecedented. This isn't just a search engine on steroids. It transforms what doing the assignment actually means. When you can paste a prompt and get a polished essay in 30 seconds, the very concept of homework changes. When AI can draft a business plan, write code, or analyze a case study faster than you can even read the instructions, the entire educational contract is up for renegotiation. You're navigating conditions with no precedent, no clear rules, and expectations designed for a world that no longer exists. But here's the thing I need you to hear. You're not behind. You're pioneers in a new, unmapped era of learning. The question isn't whether AI will change education. It already has. The question is whether you're going to let it change you and whether you'll take change and take charge of the transformation. This title says it all. The system is running an old operating system on new hardware. Couldn't have said it better. Well, I wrote it, so I guess I could have. But let's talk about the institution you're inside right now. And I'm not here to bash universities. I work for one. I love it. I deeply believe in the mission of education. I love helping students learn. But I also honestly believe in honesty. And the honest truth is most educational institutions are running on pre-AI assumptions. The institutional lag is real. Curricula and assessments were designed for a time when tools couldn't think, when the hardest part of writing a paper was the writing itself, not the thinking behind it. When formatting, citations, and word count were reasonable proxies for intellectual effort. Those proxies made sense for decades. They don't anymore. The conflict is straightforward. Schools measure output. They grade papers. They count words. They check formatting. They evaluate the artifact, the thing you submit. But AI generates artifacts instantly. It produces output that satisfies every rubric-like expectation with zero cognitive effort from the student. So what you've inherited is a workflow that no longer makes cognitive sense. You're operating in a system built for one technology reality while living in another. It's like running Windows 95 on a quantum computer. The hardware is revolutionary, but the operating system can't even recognize what it's capable of. And this isn't anyone's fault. Institutions move slowly. That's by design. Stability matters. But the speed of AI adoption has outpaced institutional adaptation for years and for decades. And the gap between the old system and whatever comes next, that's where you are right now. That is not me exercising. But let's get down into the neuroscience of this, because understanding why it's so easy to fall into the AI trap is essential to resisting it. So, energy conservation. Your brain is the most energy-hungry organ in your body. It consumes about 20% of your caloric intake, despite being only 2% of your body mass. As a result, human cognition evolved shortcuts, heuristics, to save energy. We prefer answers that feel smooth, that reduce effort, that come prepackaged and ready to use. This isn't laziness, it's biology. But the heuristic trap, AI outputs fit these biological shortcuts perfectly. When you get a polished, well-structured response from an AI, your brain processes it in the same way it processes any fluent input, with less scrutiny, less critical evaluation, and more automatic acceptance. AI integrates into your cognitive system seamlessly because it matches your desire for ease. It feels like thinking, but it's not. The risk, and this is the part I want you to really internalize. Evaluation takes more energy than acceptance. When a machine lifts the weights, the muscles don't grow. Every time you accept an AI output without critically engaging with it, without questioning it, without reformulating it in your own words, you're choosing cognitive comfort over cognitive growth. Now think of your mind as a muscle. If you went to a gym and had a robot do your reps for you, you'd look the same year after year. Worse, actually, because the muscles you're not using would atrophy. Well, that's what is at stake here. Not your GPA, not your grades. They'll do fine with cognitive help. Your actual cognitive capacity is what's at stake. So here is what happened. Basically, schools quietly drifted from exploration to production. Historically, let's look at some historical context, because this problem didn't start with AI. AI just exposed it. Look at this progression. We started with exploration, the original purpose of education, the Socratic method, apprenticeships, curiosity-driven learning, students sitting under trees with mentors, asking questions, following tangents, discovering. Then came standardization. The Industrial Revolution's approach to education. We needed to scale learning, so we built factories, lecture halls, standardized tests, textbooks, assembly line education designed to process large numbers of students efficiently. And it worked for a while. And then we arrived at production, where we are now. The end point of standardization. Education as an output system. Write the paper, hit the word count, format correctly, submit, repeat. The drift happened slowly, over decades, for years. For years, standardization replaced intellectual wandering. Deliverables and formatting became more important than reasoning. You were trained to complete tasks efficiently rather than think expansively. And most students didn't even notice because the system rewarded compliance. Good grades went to good producers, not necessarily good thinkers. But here's the irony. The very efficiency we optimize for is exactly what AI does better than humans. If your education has been training you to produce formatted outputs quickly and accurately, you've been trained to be replaceable by a machine. That's the drift. And now that AI has arrived, has exposed the gap between what education became and what it was supposed to be. So here's where we are. We prioritize formatting over reasoning. Let me be more specific about how this plays out in your daily academic life. Think about how grades actually work. In most courses, what gets rewarded? Word count, citations, deadlines, formatting. These are the checkboxes. These are the metrics. And I'm not saying they don't matter. Deadlines are real in the professional world, and proper formatting shows attention to detail. But somewhere along the way, these proxies became the thing being measured rather than the thinking behind them. So, in this task economy, grades reward completion more reliably than insight. If you turn in a well-formatted, properly cited paper on time, you'll almost certainly get a good grade, even if the thinking in that paper is shallow. Even if you never had an original thought while writing it, the system rewards the artifact, not the process. And here's where it gets dangerous. Rational actors. You are rational actors operating in this system. If the system rewards the artifact, the paper, rather than thinking, you will use the best tool available to produce the artifact. That's not cheating. That's rational behavior. If I told you to dig a hole and gave you access to a backhoe, you wouldn't use a shovel unless I specifically told you the point was the exercise. But the point is the exercise. The thinking is the product. The paper was never supposed to be the deliverable. It was supposed to be evidence of the thinking. And when we lost sight of that distinction, we created a system perfectly designed to be automated by AI. So when students post a prompt into ChatGPT and submit the output, they're not breaking the system. They're exposing that the system was already broken. So again, AI didn't break learning. It exposed what learning had become. So the great reveal. This is a slide I want you to remember if you remember nothing else from this presentation. AI didn't break learning, it exposed what learning had become. AI excels at structured, formula-driven tasks. It generates fluent answers that satisfy rubric-like expectations, and when it does that, when it can produce A-grade work in 30 seconds, it tells us something profound about the work that we were assigning. If a machine can effortlessly do the homework was likely robotic to begin with. Think about that. If an AI can write your case analysis, your discussion posts, your research summary, without understanding the material, without caring about the topic, without any lived expectation, then what was that assignment actually testing? It was testing your ability to format and structure information, and that's exactly what AI does best. So the hard truth is, if a machine can effortlessly do the homework was likely robotic to begin with. It was testing output, not thinking. It was measuring compliance, not comprehension. Now, this is not an indictment of professors or universities. It's a recognition that the entire system, from K through 12 through graduate school, was optimized for the wrong metrics, and AI is the mirror that showed us what we had built. Well, the good news, now that we can see it, we can fix it. But the fix doesn't start with institutions. They move too slowly. It starts with you, with how you choose to engage with your own learning, and whether you use AI as a crutch or a catalyst. So this might be the important part here in terms of cognitive concept in this entire presentation. The difference between fluency and understanding. The illusion is when you read a perfectly crafted AI explanation of a complex topic, something happens in your brain. You feel like you understand it. The explanation is clear, logical, well organized, and your brain interprets that fluency as comprehension. It's the same reason you can watch a cooking show and feel like you know how to cook. The explanation feels like the skill. But fluency is not understanding. Reading a perfect answer is not the same as knowing the answer. Watching someone solve a problem is not the same as being able to solve it yourself. AI explanations give you a false sense of mastery. They make you feel smart without making you smarter. And that's a trap. Here's what's happening neurologically. Your confidence increases while your actual reasoning ability remains thin. When friction disappears from the learning process, when you can get answers without struggling for them, learning collapses into mere recognition. You recognize the concepts when you see them, but you can't generate them independently. You can identify the right answer on a multiple choice question, but you can't construct the argument from scratch. This is the fluency trap, and it's pervasive. Every time you read an AI response and think, yeah, that makes sense, without trying to explain it yourself, without questioning it, without reformatting it, you're falling into the trap. You're confusing the smoothness of the input with the depth of your understanding. The antidote: friction, struggle, confusion. The things that feel like failure are actually the signs of real learning happening. I'll tell you a story. I've been developing software code for a long time, and AI has been a wonderful boost. But every output that was put out by Claude Code or whatever tool that I'm using, I stop and question everything. I give feedback on where I see it needs to be changed. I interpret the direction or the plan that it's suggesting, and I ask why and why not. And that's where I get my education. That's where I'm able to add value, because I keep my mind sharp and I question things. That's got to be part of the answer. So let's continue with this biology of learning. All right. So the deeper insight into neuroscience, and this is not just philosophy, this is biology. The deeper is that biology of learning, neural circuits only strengthen when effort pushes them beyond comfort. This is called desirable difficulty in learning science, and it's one of the most well-established findings in cognitive psychology. Your brain physically changes. New synaptic connections form. Existing pathways strengthen only when you engage in effortful processing. Confusion is not an error state, it's the update process. So when you struggle with a concept, when you feel confused, when you question back, when you have to read something 3 times before it clicks, that friction is literally building neural architecture. Your brain is rewiring itself. Those moments of cognitive strain are where long-term memory is being formed. Now, the engine struggle triggers deeper encoding. This is the generation effect in psychology. Information you generate yourself is remembered far better than information you passively receive. When you have to formulate a thought, put it into words, struggle to articulate why something is true, the memory trace is strong. When you read someone else's articulation, the trace is weak. Think about it this way. You remember the things you worked hard to learn. You forget the things that were handed to you. That's not a coincidence. It's a fundamental mechanism of human learning. So when AI removes all the friction from your academic work, when it gives you the answer before you struggled for it, it's not helping you learn. It's preventing you from learning. The shortcut bypasses the exact process your brain needs to grow. This is why the mindset of work smarter, not harder, can be dangerous when applied to learning. In learning, harder is smarter. And again, I come back to question everything. Think outside the box. Even if it seems reasonable, think why or why not. So, deep understanding requires a slower tempo, right? And there's another dimension to this that goes beyond AI. It's about tempo, the speed at which information moves through your life. And it's getting faster. Cognitive rhythm. Schools reward speed, accuracy, and volume. Get the assignment done quickly, cover more material, take more credits, graduate faster. The entire system is optimized for throughput. And that's before you factor in social media, notifications, and the constant feed that has trained your brain to expect new information every few seconds. But the brain needs something different. It needs cycles of curiosity, struggle, and recovery. It needs time to be confused, time to let ideas simmer, time to make unexpected connections between things you learned last week and things you're experiencing now. You cannot cram deep understanding. It must be grown. Like a tree, it needs roots, and roots take time to develop. You can memorize facts overnight, But understanding requires repeated engagement, reflection, and the kind of slow processing that feels unproductive in our efficiency-obsessed culture. So the feet paces the mind. When your educational experience moves at the speed of content consumption, when every week brings a new topic, a new reading, a new assignment, there's no space for that kind of deep processing that creates durable understanding. You're always moving on before you're truly arrived. Now, I'm not saying slow down your career or deadlines. I'm saying recognize that the pace of input is not the pace of learning. They're different processes. And if you don't intentionally create space for slow, deep thinking, no one will create it for you. Not your school, not your employer, certainly not your phone. This is why in my course, I give you an assignment and I let you deliver it, submit it, and I grade it very hard. But I tell you, go back and do it again. Think about it. I want you to learn the process. I want you to understand it. This includes everything I'm assigning to you in this course. We understand that this is new information, thinking about how AI can be used in design and product development. That's a new field. And to really optimize your chances for it, you need to be able to think and think outside of the time-constrained, output-timed production. You need to bring new ideas, and you need to reflect on what you've learned. So throughout this course, I want you to feel like I'm pushing you hard on these things, but then I'm giving you time to reflect on it. I'm making you write some analyses of cases, but then I'm giving you a chance to rewrite them, and I'm then giving you an example of what a perfect case analysis would look like. The iteration and repeat exposure to these things will help you learn, in my opinion. And so what I'm really saying here is, in this age where everybody's trained to just do tasks quickly, creativity is the new competitive edge. So if AI can produce structured outputs faster and more fluently than humans, what's left? What's the human competitive advantage? It comes back to creativity and thinking. But not creativity in the way most people think of it. AI is a recombination engine. It takes existing patterns, words, structures, styles, arguments, and recombines them in ways that are often impressive, but never truly novel. It can generate 1,000 variations on what already exists. It can remix, reformat, restructure, but it cannot create meaning. It cannot ask a question that has never been asked. It cannot look at the world and see something no one else has ever seen before. Humans reshape meaning. Novel ideas arise from slow wandering, from mental spaciousness, from unexpected collision of two unrelated concepts in a mind that's been wrestling with a problem for weeks. The eureka moment doesn't come from efficiency. It comes from the kind of unfocused, wandering cognitive mind that productivity flourishes in, and that culture has, and our education system has downsized. So if you think that you're being pushed too hard and it doesn't make sense to you about all this new technology, that's good. That's your mind struggling. That's the stuff that's going to lead you to be productive when it comes to product design. The discipline of creating something new that creates real value. That's one of the most important skills you can develop. And it's fundamentally creative. It requires judgment. It requires out-of-the-box thinking. And it gets better the more you practice it yourself. I want to shift the framing now from problems to possibilities, because the point of this presentation isn't to make you feel helpless. It's to make you feel powerful. Your future is bigger than the school system. School is temporary. The long game, your mind endures, the semester ends, the degree gets conferred, the GPA fades into irrelevance. But the cognitive habits you build during this period, the way you think, reason, question, create, those stay with you for the rest of your career. Your value in the professional world won't come from your transcript. It will come from your ability to see reason independently, solve problems that no one's seen before, make decisions under uncertainty. Grades measure completion. Your value will come from your ability to reason independently, and those are two very different things. So my advice: don't wait. You can't wait for the institutions to catch up. Universities are redesigning curriculum, reassessing assessments, figuring out how to integrate AI. They'll eventually get there, but eventually isn't fast enough for you. You're in the system now. You're building cognitive habits now. And over-relying on this transition period, you're weakening the very foundations that will determine your professional value. You must take ownership of your learning now. Not because the system told you to, it hasn't, but because your future depends on it. Not your GPA future, your future career. Your ability to add value in a world where professionals have access to the same AI tools you do. The question that will define your career is, can I use AI? Well, everybody can and eventually will. The question is, what can I do that AI can't? And the only answer to that is to develop your mind to its full potential, with effort, with struggling, with questioning, with thinking out of the box. Don't be force-fed answers. Question everything. All right. So what do we do about this? The question is how to learn like a human again, right? Let's talk about some actionable strategies. Let me give you a practical framework, a set of cognitive habits that protect your thinking in an AI-saturated world. Ask questions before seeking answers. Before you search, before you prompt, before you Google, ask yourself what you already know. What's your hypothesis? What do you think the right answer might be? This primes your brain for learning. When you have a guess and then discover you were wrong, the correction sticks. But when you go straight to the answer, it slides right off. Rewrite concepts in your own language, not the machine's. AI gives you its version of understanding. Your job is to translate that into your version. If you can't explain it in your own words, you don't understand it, period. Write it out, draw it, teach it to someone else. That's why I love to teach. The act of reformulation is the learning. Connect new ideas to things you already understand. Learning isn't about adding isolated facts to a list. It's about building a web of connections. When you encounter a new concept, ask, what does this remind me of? How does it relate to what I already know? Where have I seen this pattern before? Those connections create durable understanding. Challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to articulate why a claim makes sense. Don't just accept conclusions, even from your professor. Well, except for me. Ask, why is this true? What evidence supports it? What would I have to do to change this in terms of restating the problem? This is where you can question things and think outside the box and create learning. Let confusion guide you towards deeper inquiry. When something doesn't make sense, don't run to AI for a clean explanation. Sit with the confusion, let it bother you, follow the thread. The confusion is telling you exactly where the edges of your understanding are, and those edges are where growth happens. And in case you didn't realize that I was kidding about believe everything I say, I want you to build the mind you want to have, though. I want you to leave with 3 principles that I believe can guide you not just through this course, but through decades of professional life ahead of you. Agency is number 1. You don't need to learn like a machine to succeed in a machine-shaped world. That's the biggest misconception out there. That's because AI thinks in certain ways. You need to think like AI? No. Your value comes from thinking in ways AI cannot. From bringing human judgment, creativity, empathy, and have agency over how you learn and how you use these tools. Number 2, architecture. Your education is not about checking boxes. not about word counts, formatting, or submission deadlines. It's about shaping the architecture of your mind. Every assignment, every reading, every discussion, it's an opportunity to build cognitive structure that will serve you for decades. Or it's a box to check. The choice is yours, and no one else can make it for you. 3, the goal. What you build inside your head matters more than any assignment you submit. The paper gets graded and forgotten. The presentation gets delivered and archived. But the thinking, the habit of reasoning, the framework for analysis, the capacity for creative problem solving, that's the real output of education. That's what compounds over time. That's what makes you valuable in a world where everyone has access to the same AI tools. Build the mind you want to have, not the one the system incentivizes, not the one that takes the path of least resistance, the one that can think independently, think genuinely, and lead confidently in a world of unprecedented complexity and change. I actually love this quote. School is a factory, your mind is a garden. It's a great metaphor to close on. What I mean, this image, I think it captures everything we've talked about today. Basically, school is a factory. It processes inputs, measured outputs, optimizes for efficiency. It was designed that way. And for a long time, that design served us well. But factories produce standardized products. And in a world where AI can produce standardized outputs faster, cheaper, and more consistently than any human, being a factory product is not a viable career strategy. Your mind isn't a garden. It's organic. It's unpredictable. It grows in its own time, in its own way. It needs water and sunlight, which in cognitive terms means curiosity and engagement. It needs soil, which is the foundation of knowledge and experience you built over your lifetime. And it needs tending, deliberate, patient, consistent care. Gardens don't grow on semester scheduling. They don't bloom on demand. But given the right conditions, the right attention, the right effort, the right combination of challenge and nurture, they produce things no factory ever could. Things that are unique, alive, and genuinely valuable. So my challenge to you, tend to it. Not just for this course, but for the rest of your professional lives. Use AI, leverage it, let it accelerate the parts of your work that should be accelerated, but never let it replace the parts that make you human. The struggle, the confusion, the slow dawn of genuine understanding. Your mind is the most valuable asset you will ever own. No AI can build it for you. No institution can optimize it for you. Only you can tend to it. So when I give you application programs that walk you through what I think is going to be the new process where AI is delivering content to new design and product development, I'm not giving you just a tool to stop you from thinking. I'm giving you a tool to expose your mind to what is possible, but also leaving enough space in there for you to question every output and push back against the output of the AI engine. What can be done differently? AI says this much. What if we push it further? How about this? How about that? I'm trying to get you to practice the skill that you're going to really need. And over this next couple of weeks, till you have to deliver your prototype, your challenge is going to be to iterate what AI has given you as a model and think, what could be done better? Where has something similar been done across other industries that we could incorporate here? Where is the value to the end user? What could be valuable that the end user is not even aware of yet? Something that can be done differently through the tools you now have. I want you to practice this because this is real world. This is where you're going to make a difference in your life. Thank you. And I hope you have the best of fortune going forward in your career. And I look forward to your work for the rest of the semester.